fourth was Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Good, I understand you all can hear me. Good, good. A very warm welcome to our 6th edition of our Israel Mental Health Virtual Seminar. Today, 27th of August, 2021, we are looking at a very interesting topic entitled Breaking the Stigma of Mental Health at the Workplace, What Needs to be Done? I have a simple question. If my limb breaks, I'm pretty sure all my colleagues will come to the house and come and visit me. But what if I do have a mental health problem? What would their response be? How would they interact with me at the workplace? What would management and organization as a whole, how would they respond to it? We all know the stigma and discrimination that goes on, that persons experiencing mental health issues face at our workplaces. Today, we are going to digest the issue and see what can be done to undo the stigma and discrimination at our various workplaces. Before we start, let me quickly go through our usual housekeeping rules. Today, I've managed to meet all of you, which is very good. So there's some peace and quiet here. We are going to discuss mental health. We have a person with a lived experience, and I would plead with you to be sensitive in your comments, in your remarks, in your questions. Again, when it gets to the question time, as usual, how we do it, I'd ask you to raise your hand, and when I'm able to identify you, I will mention out your name and ask you to make your contribution. At this point, I would ask our CEO, as usual. First, I think that I should introduce our panel members before our CEO opens the program with his opening remarks. Today on the panel, as usual, we have our CEO himself. He is well known to all of us, the transformation he's brought to the mental health system. And mental health is vibrant now. We are not there yet, but we are keeping on. Is a major panel member today. We also have Mrs. Mary Nati. She is a lawyer by profession, and she's the Director of Human Rights at the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice, CHARJ. We also have Mrs. Akofa Akpanya Hlobo. She is also a lawyer by profession, and she's our acting head for Rights and Quality Division at the Mental Authority here. We also have Mrs. Dorcas Efe Mensah. She is the Communications Manager at Options Consultancy Services on the Ghana Somubi Jumedi project. And myself, acting head for health promotion at the Mental Health Authority here. So once again, you are all welcome to today's edition of our virtual seminar. I would quickly hand over to our CE to give us a quick short opening remarks, then we can move on.
Thank you very much, Dr. Arthur. Am I being heard? Am I being heard?
Yes, you are. Yes,
okay,
you are being
thank you very much. And very good afternoon to you all, our distinguished panelists and our participants. We currently have 68, and I'm sure as we go on, the number will grow. It's beginning to grow 69. Now, this point, this topic, as Dr. Arthur has mentioned, is very important. Stigma at the workplace, how do you handle it? And I must say the objective of these seminars and these webinars is not only to share information amongst ourselves, but to see how we can act, implement, to reduce whatever it is that we discuss. You may remember not long ago, we discussed the issue of domestic violence. And we have put in place some measures, not yet ripe, not yet mature, but measures that will hopefully halt or reduce this. Whilst it's not yet matured, we are still seeing increasing numbers. In fact, the last count, somebody had just within 1 month, 19 women who have been killed by their spouses or partners. So it's important that we understand all these issues, put them in perspective, and see how we can implement solutions, practical solutions, that will eventually go to mitigate the consequence of what you're saying. Now, with the workplace stigma, I just want to say that stigma associated with mental illnesses, we don't have figures in Ghana, data, specific data, but elsewhere, we know that, for instance, at all workplaces, 1 in 6.8 women, or 1 in 6.8 people, persons, any 6.8 persons we see, one of them has a mental health issue, and I'm talking about workplace. This seems to be a little lower than the figures we have in the overall general population, where we say 1 in 5. This is 1 in 6.8. And this is largely because at the workplace, people at the workplaces are, on the whole, generally not the average person that we'll see. So workplaces somehow have a way of bringing people who are more stabilized in the society, and therefore the figure of 1 in 5, that's what exactly happened there. And yet we have 1 in 6.8, and that still makes it very high. And that actually translates to about a 14%. Incidentally, women, in fact, 14.7%. And incidentally, women tend to take the brunt of it. In fact, women constitute about twice as many as men. So 19.9% and 19.8% women as against 10.9%. And I must say these figures are as we have in Europe. We don't have it, but we still can have a lot to learn. So, and a lot of this comes from workplace issues of mental illnesses, stresses, burnout, and all these things. And with them, we have the issues of stigma and discrimination. So it's important that we appreciate this point and see how we can discuss and get going. So I welcome you all. When it's time for you to contribute your views as participants, please let it be as much participatory as possible. So at the end of the day, you all go home wiser than we came. Thank you very much. So that's my opening remarks. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. That's quite a detailed opening remarks with figures and all that. That's quite interesting. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we always somehow exceed our time. So this time we'll go straight into action. And Chief, I would ask you the first question. The first question will come to you. The common word that we all use is stress. You hear everybody complaining, I'm stressed out, I'm stressed out, I'm stressed out. How do mental health issues, how does it present itself at the workplace? How do we know that there are mental health issues existing? How does it present itself?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much once again. Now talking about mental health issues, let me step a little back and before I come to the point directly. Mental health issues at workplaces may be in two forms. We have mental health issues that already pre-exist. In other words, they are there and not because of the workplace. It's not because of the work. Now, the mental illness that presents or that pre-exists outside or in spite of the workplace is like any other kind of mental illness, and it will present the way as any other mental illness anywhere else will present. So we have depressions amongst them, and depression will present as somebody who feels unduly sad, not happy, feels morose, feels the world has rejected him or her, feels is worthless, and may even want to consider taking his or her life because he feels lonely, rejected. So at the workplace, such a person may feel lonely, withdrawn, and not interacting with others. Again, if it happens to be a bipolar, which is what you can get in any other person outside the workplace, then it may manifest as the bipolar. So this person may be elated, grandiose, feels on top of the world, and this can actually affect the way the person behaves. If it's schizophrenia, person with schizophrenia, then the features of schizophrenia, as it will happen in anybody else outside the workplace, would also happen. And depending on the type of schizophrenia, so this person may have the thinking a little muddled and may not be able to perform effectively the way he should. If it's the paranoid type in which he feels that people are against him, then you can be sure that at the workplace, everybody is against him. He may have one or two people he trusts, but everybody else against him. If you say anything, he feels irritated because, yes, that is evidence that you're against me. So obviously, your personal interrelationship will be impaired. But all that is one aspect. There's the other aspect that I'll say is workplace induced. If it's a mental illness induced by the workplace, again, it may take any of this form, but it may also have some peculiar features. Workplace induced, the person may be stressed up, may be restless, may not be productive, may be at work, and yet may not be maximally effective. And we call that phenomenon presenteeism. He's present, but in actual fact, it's like he's absent. Or it might even be said that he can't come to work. So absenteeism, or he might come, but come late and close early. These are features of mental illnesses that may affect somebody at the workplace. It might also be that this person, as said earlier, is depressed and so withdrawn. You might see him or her at work, but with the head buried on the table. You may have a lot of things to do, and yet he's not doing. The boss might wonder why I've given you assignment and you're not executing, because this person is actually going through issues within himself or herself or in his mind, mental issues. Now, this may come from stresses, as we said, largely from burnout. And this is very important as we discuss further. Burnout, meaning that this person has stress issues within him induced by the workplace or work situation and is not being effectively managed. And this is also quite a lot. Indeed, again, we have worldwide statistics, not so much in Ghana. And you also realize that about, in fact, before the COVID, that's another aspect. Before the COVID, the figures were about 40%. 40% of workers at their workplaces had burnout issues. They were so much under stress and they were not able to handle workplace. The work managers were also not able to handle. Now with the COVID, and as we said all along, COVID comes with its own complications of various things, including mental health issues. With the COVID, it's risen to 52% at workplace. So about 12% more than pre-COVID. And no doubt about it, this is also equally true in Ghana. We only need to do some work to see exactly what it is. So workplace mental health issues may come from pre-existing or may be induced from the work itself. And this is why managers should not rush into penalizing somebody having the consequences of mental health issues, like he's absent from work, or he's not being productive, or he's behaving strangely, which is affecting his work relationship with others. And then you say, let's transfer him, or let's punish him, let's give him sanctions. You might, at the end of the day, realize that it is being induced by the work environment. And how can work environment induce it? The environment itself might be stressful, might not be ergonomic enough. In other words, it is not human friendly. So you put somebody in a chair which does not conduce well enough for work. And probably it might, in fact, even induce backache. And this person is enduring it. And eventually he gets burnt out. And then you still punish him or you transfer him. This is an issue that eventually we need to recognize and see how we can mediate it. Again, we don't have motivation for staff. There is work overload. If one person is supposed to work on 10 files, now for whatever reason, probably he's working on 20 files, too much for him, and yet there is no way of seeking redress. This person might not be going on leave for a very long time, not enough time to relax, take some time off. All this might be stresses on the person leading to burnout, and then it manifests variously, some of what you said, and then the person becomes a victim of circumstances in the workplace. So for now, I would say this is what I'll say to that.
Wow, interesting. Thank you very much, Chief. Well, so more or less, the work-induced kind of mental health issues are even more than what the person is presenting himself before he gets in there. And like you are saying, the job environment, workload, targets, and all that are contributory to workplace mental health. And the figures, they're also quite high, even though they're not Ghana figures. Most likely we'll be having similar figures. But let me add, Prof, still back to you. It is common knowledge that people with mental health issues at the workplace are being stigmatized and discriminated. How is this also done? How is it also manifested?
Yeah, that's interesting. Stigma itself might show itself in various ways, plus it might also show itself in its consequence of discrimination against a person. Now, in various ways, you might see two people sitting somewhere or standing somewhere, and as they are talking, as soon as this person comes, they just keep quiet. Or they might even say, look at him, sabi, bottom phone. That's the mental ill person or the mad person. You make a point and everybody laughs at you, and yet you may be making something very sensible. They are stigmatizing against your condition. Or they may literally be pointing fingers at you, that you have this, you have that, you have that. That is certainly not pleasant. And these are features, sometimes they do it unconsciously, other times just to tease you. Whichever way, it comes to the fact that you are stigmatizing against this person for the condition. And by the way, by stigma, we mean a mark or tag of disgrace against somebody. So you are calculatedly making these statements just to embarrass or disgrace a person, tagging him and marking him for his or her innocence of having mental illness, which was what is making, and as I've indicated, for all you workers there or the work environment may have contributed to that, and yet we tag him or her with stigma. So that is one way. The other thing is that the discrimination that goes against, so they may not speak against you directly, they may not talk to you directly, but the discriminatory aspect of it, as I said earlier, they are talking, and as soon as you come, they stop. They don't want you to join in the conversation. You make a point and they think that your point has no merit. Somebody else makes the same point and everybody is hailing him or her. They are discriminating against you. You might suffer the consequence of not being promoted. Everybody is being promoted, but you alone, you are not getting a promotion or as quickly as you would otherwise have had your promotion. And you see your peers going ahead of you and you not going. They are discriminating against you just because you have mental illness. This is one way. Or there is opportunity for training and development, and you alone, you might be left out. In their minds, they think that if you go for the training, you can be productive. Who said they are wrong? It still comes to discriminating against you. So all these are features that are targeted to the person with mental illness, either directly talking to him, humiliating him, embarrassing him as a result of the condition, or marginalizing him, ostracizing him in conditions that otherwise he should have been part of it. Or there's an assignment to give to everybody, and he alone, we may leave him or her out because we think that he cannot do. These are all real issues and they happen at the workplace a lot. Over.
Wow, thank you. This is not pleasant news. It's hard to imagine that you know that you have this capability of doing that and you are being sidelined because you have a mental health issue. Well, we have Dorcas as part of us. She's had experiences in such circumstances. Dorcas, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Good. Thank you for being part of this program. And I commend you for having the energy and the zeal to be part of this program. Let me ask you, since you experienced your mental health issues, you might have experienced some sort of stigma and discrimination in your working life, not where you are now, not where you are now. How was your experience like, and how did it affect your work?
Actually, I haven't experienced any such thing in my working life. Well, if people stigmatized me before or did anything of that sort, maybe they didn't do it in my face. I don't ever remember anybody treating me differently because of my mental health condition. At my first workplace, that is where I got to be diagnosed of a mental health condition. And it was actually my editor who realized that there was something wrong with me. So he made arrangements for me to see a psychiatrist. And it was from then that I got to know that I had a mental health condition. At the time, I was diagnosed of major depression. So my editor knew that I had a mental health condition, and maybe one or two of my senior colleagues, but the rest of my colleagues didn't know. Only that at the time I was a very difficult person. I got angry quickly. I was so fearless. I would fight with anybody. I don't care who you are. If you do anything I don't want, I will give it to you. So that caused a lot of problems in my relationships with people at work. But they didn't know, and I didn't know it was because of my mental health condition that I was reacting in that way. So mostly people were like, as for Dorcas, she's too hard. As for Dorcas, she doesn't respect. Dorcas is this, Dorcas is that. But it wasn't because they thought I had a mental illness and they were discriminating against. They didn't know.
So after you were diagnosed, was that made known to your colleagues?
Okay, I don't know if my boss did. I think for the senior colleagues like the deputy editor and others that I thought knew, I think my boss told them. Because when he wasn't around, then they would be there, so they would have to deal with me. And I was a very, very difficult person. So, I mean, if you have to deal with me, then you have to know what you are in for. So I'm sure he told them and they knew. But then it didn't affect our relation. They still checked on me. They were still caring and all, just that they were always on me. Dorcas, why are you so disrespectful? Dorcas, why are you so this? Why are you so that? But I don't think it was because they knew I was reacting in that way because of my mental health issue. I even didn't know. I also thought I'm just a difficult person. So I don't know. I'm not sure there was anything like stigma.
That's all right, Dorcas. That's all right. So, well, with where you've been before, let's make a hypothetical case. If I have a condition and I get fired as a result of my condition, well, we can imagine the financial implications of that. But how does that impact? How does that impact on my mental health condition, being where you are and what you've experienced? How do you think that action by management, because I have this condition, they kick me out, how do you think it would affect me as a person?
It will be very difficult because, I mean, treatments for mental health issues are like, it costs so much. So if you are not earning anything because you are not working, then it means you can't pay. And if you can't pay, it means you can't get your treatment, and the state of your mental health is just going to deteriorate. So in the end, you become unproductive and you can't contribute to society. So yeah, that is what I think about this. It will really affect your finances. There's nothing
Yes.
much you can really do.
So your condition will worsen. Clearly, the condition will worsen because you will not get your medication.
Yeah.
And how about family support from network at that moment?
Well, I don't know about other people, but for me, like, family support hasn't been that much. I always say that I didn't know my own strength, because if I hadn't taken my life into my own hands and done something about my condition, I'm sure maybe I'll be dead by now, or maybe even on the streets. Because as for my family, either they didn't care, or they didn't understand, or they think it's too costly, like putting their money into something that never goes away. Because you go to the hospital and they treat you, you come, and it doesn't take long and you are back there, and they have to spend again and again and again, and that is difficult for them. So it got to a time I realized that if I will be well, it would depend on me. So I have to do this myself. So I made that decision and decided to work with my healthcare providers, and that's how come I am relatively well. Unfortunately, I work in a place that mental health is well understood, and those of us with mental health conditions are very well supported. So it makes it a bit easy to bear all that is going on, and also be productive and do your work as is required.
Good. Thank you very much, Lucas. That's brave on your part to share this with us. Let's get to the human rights aspect of all this conversation. Ms. Marinati, you have the director of human rights from Scratch with us. Ms. Nati, are you there? You have to unmute yourself, I think so. Hello, Mrs. Nati. I can see you, but we can't hear you. You have to unmute yourself. Technology.
Thank you very much. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you now. That's good.
I think it was a problem from the host. I was unable to unmute myself.
Technology. Technology has its own way of playing with us.
Exactly. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's a pleasure to be part of this program and to share the human rights perspective with our listeners. I must say,
let me ask you. Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, okay. I must say that the issues on the floor, issue of stigma, issue of discrimination, falls squarely within the human rights purview. And the rights, listening to my lady, the workplace issue also falls within the right to work. There are issues of confidentiality, issues of privacy. All these issues come to play in the discourse we've had so far. In fact, human rights, we have said, there are entitlements inherent to the human being. And the UN has defined it as rights that's available to all of us by virtue of the fact that we are human beings, and without which we cannot live as human beings. Indeed, doctor talked about stigma, which is labeling, tagging others, and shunning others. When you look at the concept of human rights, the concept is just pretty simple. Is that every human being is entitled to enjoy his or her rights without any distinction, to ensure the realization of their full potential in dignity. Our dignity is very, very important as human beings, and that is what makes us human. And therefore, there are guarantees under human rights, or we call standards or principles under human rights, that all of us are expected to respect. For instance, when we look at internationally, there are international human rights laws that have been developed since 1945, after the World War II, to ensure the realization and protection of the rights of all persons. And therefore, we have the UDHR, the International Covenant, that's the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. From the UN level, we have the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. All these instruments, in one way or the other, provides for the protection of the right to health and the right to a satisfactory, safe, and conducive environment of work. And then at the same time, when we look at the regional level, I'll just remain with Africa. We also have the African Charter on the on people's and human and people's rights, which also provides for the protection of the rights of individuals, including the right to health. And the right to health, I must say, includes the right to mental health. It's important that we put it in that order. It's not only when one is sick and one goes to hospital that we will say that, oh, then that person needs the help in order to achieve or to acquire the right to health. There are other multilateral organizational instruments like the ILO. It talks about employment issues and the right of workers within their employment environment. Now I'll come to our domestic setting, which is Ghana. We have our domestic laws, and one, of course, which is the Grunum, or the Supreme Law of Ghana, the 1992 Constitution. And the 1992 Constitution has the Bill of Rights under Chapter 5 of the 1992. We have the Bill of Rights. When we look at Article 12, for instance, it talks about everyone in Ghana, or every person in Ghana, no matter the race or the place of origin, or the disability, or the creed or gender or whatever, that person is entitled to have his rights, is entitled to the respect of that person's rights. And so it's very important that we all understand that our right to health is provided for under the Constitution. Article 12, actually, of the International Covenant on Economic and Social Rights also provides for one's right to health, which include physical health and mental health. Very, very important. And so it is important that at the workplace, employers, in the same Article 12, the obligation to respect and to uphold the rights of individuals is enshrined under Article 12, which includes natural persons and unnatural persons, which is organizations and institutions, which are also supposed to respect the rights of their employees and persons they deal with along the line. So it is very important for us to take it from this perspective, that discrimination or the right to non-discrimination is a provided right. And for us as SHRAD, we have a system which we call the Stigma and Discrimination Reporting System. It's an online system we have made available to ensure that people would report their any kind of stigma or discrimination they may face. Previously, we actually limited it to HIV/AIDS, but like Dr. rightly mentioned, other areas now have triggered our approach. So we are looking at holistic discrimination or stigmatization, no matter where one finds himself. And so it's very important. When we look at human rights, we are saying that human rights are what? They are universal. No matter where you are, no matter where you work, human rights are universal. You are entitled to enjoy that right. Because why? They are inalienable, they are inherent, they are part of you, they are God-given, and they can never be denied by any person, except, of course, the law comes in to restrict the enjoyment of human rights. We are also saying that human rights are interdependent. Why? Because, like my lady mentioned, your right to work is interdependent of your right to health, and of course, your right to mental health is very, very important. Also, your right to work is also dependent or interrelated with the right to privacy and confidentiality. Like she mentioned, her boss actually saw her condition, and her boss did try to assist her as an ally. We call it an ally, as a friend to assist her to get medical help for her condition, which is very commendable. And I must give praise to the boss. It's very, very important. Now, it is also, like I said, it's indivisible. You cannot divide the right, because the right to work is tied into the right to dignity, to earn some money, to earn some income, so that you can live a dignified life. And therefore, if her right to work was curtailed or was abused or was violated, then of course her dignity would be affected. And again, her right to seek medical care, treatment for her disorder would have been affected. So we are saying that human rights is indivisible, is interrelated, is interdependent on each other. And therefore, when employers are looking at the issues of mental disorder or condition, it's important they look at it from this holistic perspective. This is a situation that the person is facing. What we rather do to help and assist the person to enjoy his or her dignity at all times. Because Article 15 of the 1992 Constitution says that the dignity of all persons shall be inviolable. It means that no one has the right to violate your dignity, no matter the situation or the condition. And like I've said, after Article 17, it gives a broader picture of discrimination and defines what discrimination really is. And Doctor did a perfect job by telling us what discrimination really is, attributing different treatment to other people than others. It's all issues, comes to the issues of discrimination, very, very important. So I will pause here and maybe we can come back with other questions. So these are the human rights dimensions. The human rights is an international thing. It is domesticated. It is something that must be enjoyed by all, and our laws provides or stipulates for the enjoyment and the promotion of human rights. Thank you very much. Yeah, I can hear you.
Technology is, okay, I'm sorted. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you
Yes,
now.
we can hear you.
Technology issues. Sorry about that.
No.
Yes, Ms. Nate, you made a very good point, and there is one comment here that I would like to read from Ben Brown. He says, it's good to know that there is an avenue to report discrimination and stigmatization cases. I, however, believe that this is not really public knowledge because this is my first time actually hearing of this. And I'm also adding my voice that this is the first time. So, Ms. Nati, if you can elaborate on how the system works and what we can do, because actually I had wanted to ask you a question that if I was in a job and my mental health condition becomes known and I'm being discriminated against, are my rights being violated? And clearly from your explanation, yes. What remedial options do I have? And you just mentioned to us that you have a system that we can report. So can you please elaborate much on that for us?
Thank you very much. Like I said, if you go onto our website, Trad website, we have the portal there. You click on it It gives you option to type in your complaints, and then you type in your complaints, and then you submit. We also are currently making available mobile numbers, free toll mobile numbers. We have launched it, but due to technology issues, we are having some little issues, so we are working on that. Free toll mobile numbers that you can also just call and just report your situation, and it will be recorded by an investigator who will then follow up with you. We have also the free SMS thing. You just type in just something and then type in some few words, because we know the situation of our other folks who must also use the system. So you just type in something little and we will do the follow-up. We also have a system where it gives you the option, like the MTN, what do you call it? What's the system where the option is given to you, whether you want to speak English, you want to speak Ga, you want to speak Ewe, or what language you prefer to choose, and then you choose the language, and then you report your situation. So all these are in the pipeline. We have actually launched it, but like I said, the telcos are helping us to iron out some few issues that came up during the processes. So we have that system. Again, you can also walk in to any SHRAD office and you can lodge your complaint. But I must also assure the public that the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, we have a confidentiality and privacy policy. So you don't need to fret at all that, oh, coming to report my issue or a case, it may be disclosed into the public domain. No, you don't have to fret at all. We have worked on this with the HIV, AIDS, and key population for some number of years now. We haven't had any complaints regarding leakages of information and all. So we also have that system. Again, let me assure the public that our services are free. The services of SHRAD are free. Sometimes when I say people are shocked, I think SHRAD now, I would say, is the only institution you come, you don't buy paper, you don't buy pen, you don't buy anything. Whatever we do here, everything is free. So you don't have to think of, can I really finance or what can I do? No, you don't have to. Talking of other remedial measures, and I think the law also provides, which is our constitution, provides that if you wish to go to court, Article 12(1), you can also go to the High Court to enforce your rights if you prefer. But like I said, with SHRAD, everything is free. And so you may, depending on your choice, you may want to decide. Again, let me say that in the case of my lady Dorcas, in the case of Dorcas, for instance, it was through her boss who actually got to know the situation and assisted. And so sometimes we also suggest, because Section 9H of the Labor Act provides that it is the duty of the employer to protect the interests of the workers. It is the duty of the employer to protect the interests of the workers. And so when we talk of remedial actions, apart from just reporting the stigma and discrimination to us, which is we are an external body, if you can't find confidence in your boss or your employer, it's sometimes also good to report the issue to your employer, because your employer is obliged under law to protect your interests. And then I'm glad that Dorcas mentioned that she felt, or she knew her boss may have also told the other colleagues, but they exhibited some kind of maturity by not, disclosing it to her and letting her know. But they did work with her in a manner that she was comfortable. Let me also mention here that it is very, very important that at the workplace, we operate what we call the open door policy, because sometimes persons with some kind of condition may want to have someone they can confide in, someone they can talk to. But sometimes it's difficult, you don't know who to trust. But if employers are listening, we will say that it's important you create an open door policy, someone who can just walk into the boss's office to trust that, oh, my problem or my situation is safe with my boss, who can assist me in one direction or the other. So these are some of the remedial actions. Of course, the external one is there, but I also think that if internally you can confide with in a boss or someone who in a higher position, who of course is under obligation to keep your mental health condition confidential, because if you look at section 60 of the Mental Health Act, it provides for confidentiality. Very, very important that we must keep confidential issues regarding mental health. And so it is also an obligation on the employer to ensure that he or she will keep your information safe so that you can build that trust and then you can move on. Because obviously looking at the conditions and how it's triggered, from what doctor said, most of the time the factors are actually generated from the institution itself, the internal ones which we overlook. Because if the person is overburdened and is working beyond his or her capacity and all, and there's no motivation and all, then obviously the employer must be aware of all these issues to assist the employee. So these are some of the remedial actions that are available to persons who may find themselves in such conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is assuring to know that the issue of confidentiality and privacy with what you do as charge, it's very important and it's free. And it's also interesting to know that bosses or people in decision-making positions have an obligation that when we confide in them, they must keep it. Now, I have confided in them. Then later, I realized that as a result of this confidence that I imposed in this person, certain things are happening. Now, Mrs. Akofa, are you there? There are enough comments. I'll read them after Mrs. Akofa has made her submission. Mrs. Akofa, are you there?
Yes, doctor.
Good, good, good. So to add your voice to it, with all that has been said, in what ways should organizations handle employees without infringing on their rights when things like this do happen?
Thank you very much, moderator, for the opportunity. I want to thank all the panelists who have spoken before me for throwing light on mental health in the workplace and also their human rights they must enjoy at the workplace. When it comes to organizations' approach to employees with mental health issues, the Mental Health Act 2012 at 846 has given a procedure that should be followed to support staff or employees who are having mental health issues. First of all, when an organization or management discovers that a staff is having mental health issues, they have to assist the worker to seek medical care. And in assisting the worker, I will classify the type of employees with mental health issues into three. One type of employee with mental health issue is the one who has accepted that he has a mental health condition and will be willing to go for treatment. That's a voluntary patient. Then the second one is the involuntary. The involuntary one, the organization has identified that the staff has some mental health issues or they have seen some changes that may need medical attention. The staff's attention has been counseled, the staff has been counseled, and he has also accepted that he has a mental health condition that he needs to see his doctor, but then he has refused to go for this medical attention or medical care. This type of employee will be an involuntary patient. Now, the third one is for the involuntary patient, his condition does not pose any danger to himself or others or to organizational property. So he has just refused or has not consented to go for medical checkup. Now, to the third classification, I would say that person is a person or an employee that will be treated under a certificate of urgency provided under the Act. When it comes to the voluntary patient, the organization, after identifying that the employee is facing some challenges, will advise him and also give him a letter to refer him or her to a facility. In this case, we have the mental health facilities, and then we have the mental health wings, psychiatric wings at the regional hospitals, so that he will receive treatment. And he may be advised to also go with a co-worker, or where that is where the family is not available. The involuntary worker, which I classified under number 2, the organization will collaborate with the family, and secure an order from the court so that he can be treated at the facility. Now, when it comes to certificate of urgency, the employee's condition has posed danger to himself or herself and the company property, and also to other employees around him or her. So in this situation, it will be classified as an emergency. So the organization will write a letter and also collaborate with the family and send the person to a facility, and there is a procedure under the law that you go through for you to be treated. I must say at this point that the employee who is receiving attention or care is just like another employee who is being on admission on the diagnosis of malaria or any other health condition. Their health information is personal to them. So when they go to the facility takes information from them or whoever sends them, and then will treat them. Whatever transpired between the clients and then the facility they are attending is confidential and personal to them. And so the employer cannot expect that when they refer the client to hospital, every information about the client can just be disclosed to them. If they want that, then they must take other steps, which may be going to court for a court order for disclosure. Now, when the employee is receiving care, the employer under the law can also request for an assessment, a mental health assessment for that employee. And this mental health assessment could be done by a medical board who will sit on the case of the mental health employee and look at the chances of the employee working as he used to be before the condition developed, or whether the employee can be put on a lower workload or schedule. And then the committee can also recommend that the employee is no longer fit to work. In this third instance, the Labor Act will have to be, the procedures in the Labor Act must be followed before the employee's appointment can be terminated. And I want to say also that the employers who decide to support, those who support their employees, It's not a decision to support, actually. It's the law provides and you are obliged to do it. Those who support their employees through these measures I've enumerated can also call on mental health in case they face any challenges. We are ever ready to support them. Employers must also increase awareness and knowledge within the workspace to change our attitude of staff, and also improve support within the organization. I want to say that it's an offense under Section 94 of the Mental Health Act to deliberately neglect or treat any person who suffers from mental health disorder or subject a person with mental health disorder to discrimination. It's an offense and there are penalties that are prescribed in the Act for anyone who commits such an offense. Thank you.
Hello, thank you very much, Mrs. Akofa, for that. You are very elaborate with the type of category of employees that we have. And clearly, each of them has some rights.
Hello.
Hello. Sorry about that. We are having some technology issues here, but it's being addressed. Hello, is it clear now? Can you hear me? I think it's much better now.
It's better now. Meanwhile, yeah, there are some people in the waiting room.
Jadesh is supposed to admit them.
Okay, I think I've been made a co-host. I'll admit them.
Yes, please. Thank you very much. Yes, like I was saying, so Ms. Akofa, if as you have discussed, if things are not that way, it means that this person's rights have been infringed upon, correct?
Very correct.
Very correct. Is there a role that a mental health authority can play to support these individuals in such situations?
Okay. Thank you for the question. Mental health authority has been mandated to see to the mental well-being of all persons within its jurisdiction. So any person whose rights has been infringed upon, whose human rights have been infringed upon, or whose rights is being threatened, that is, there's a likelihood of your rights being infringed upon, can reach the MHA, Mental Health Authority, and report to us, because we receive such complaints and we will perform some preliminary investigation. Sometimes people make allegations without any basis. So we will do, together with the technical people, we will do our own preliminary investigations into the matter. Then if we find out that truly the employee's rights has been infringed upon, then we will advise or refer him to SHRAD to report the case. Since there is an offense attached to it, we may also hand the case over to the Attorney General to prosecute those who have infringed upon the rights of the employee. We will also collaborate with social welfare to support those who have been dismissed whilst the case is being dealt with. we can also support, we collaborate with the social welfare and the Ministry of Labor to get them re-employed.
But before that, you have to give it somebody else.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Once all this is going on, we provide them with psychological support at our facilities.
Okay.
At the cost of the employers who caused this infringement.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Dorcas, are you there?
Yes, please.
You earlier on mentioned that you were in an environment that was very supportive of your condition. I mean, it's a mental health environment. Can you share that experience with us? How supportive and what measures have been put in place to help people with such experiences?
Okay, so I was talking about my current employer, but even before here, I worked at a school where I was also very supported. That was like 3 years ago, and at that place, I worked with children who were like 8, 9 years old, and sometimes I'll just be there and I'll just start crying. Nobody has done anything, said anything, or nothing is wrong. I just start crying like somebody is dead right in front of the children. I did that a couple of times and I felt very bad about myself. So I decided that I won't do the work again. And I sent my resignation letter to the headmaster. And when I did, the headmaster called me and talked to me and told me that they really want to work with me. So whatever it is that is wrong, I had already told them that I had a mental health condition, and from time to time I would be going to see my daughter, and they knew about it. So they knew that was the reason I wanted to resign. But they assured me that they were willing to work with me and support me to go through whatever I was going through. And that was really very assuring for me. And that was the very first time that I felt very comfortable at work, that people knew about my mental health condition. Because even at my previous workplace that I talked about, even though my boss facilitated everything for me and all that, I was very scared that my colleagues and other people in the organization will get to know that I had a mental health condition. But at this school that I worked, because of the way the headmaster talked to me, and he was very helpful and ready to even involve the owner of the school and other people in the school at the top hierarchy, just to help me so that I can recover and come back to work, and there was no need for me to resign. That was very refreshing and reassuring. At my current workplace too, I mean, I think this is the best workplace ever, when it comes to being supported for your mental health. I learned to let my employer know before I get accepted for the job that I have a mental health condition. So right at the interview, I told them that I have bipolar disorder. So they knew before I was employed. And after I was employed, we've had a series of discussions about my condition, how I can be supported. My boss, the very top boss, she's always asking, Dorcas, are you okay? What can I do to help you? Can I do this? Can I do that? And it makes me feel that at least I have somebody that I can call when things are not going well, and I don't have to be afraid that I'll lose my job because I'm sick. And even my direct supervisor, he's also been very helpful. Whenever I'm not feeling well, I can just call him and tell him, I don't feel too well today. Can I take the day off? And he's okay with it. Every week I have to go and see my psychologist. That means missing some hours at work, and it's still okay for them. So I feel very grateful that I work in a supportive environment like this. And I wish that other employers will also emulate and support the people that they work with, because I know a lot of people like me are in various places of work and they are really suffering, but they can't open up because they are afraid to lose their jobs. So they are afraid that if they are not able to do something, they will blame it on their mental health and use it as the basis to dismiss them.
Right. Thank you very much. Prof, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. So, with taking up from what Doc has just said, how should employers, if a person has reduced energy or physical or mental energy, how should employers handle such a person? What steps, what can employers do to help such a person?
Well, thank you. To start with, I think employers themselves will need to be sensitized for them to understand. Employers will need education. You all remember recently we are told, we didn't hear the employers or the doctor's side of the story anyway, but a person, a staff, a nurse disclosed to her boss that this is my situation, or actually the nurse's father went to the doctor to disclose her situation. There were some debts and he paid it up. And the boss, instead of being supportive, went out and gave out the information, and this nurse could not withstand the situation and eventually took a life. So we will need to educate the employers themselves, sensitize them for them to understand. That is one aspect. Now, once they understand, then they will also need to know what is happening to every staff. In other words, we also need to sensitize a certain critical mass of the employees to know what is happening. And once they're able to identify what is happening, then we activate the support mechanism. And eventually, what we are planning to do, which we've not done yet, we are still working on the modalities, is when we have an employee assistance program, which will be an office where it could be a physical or non-physical office at the workplaces, where people are trained, all staff are trained to be able to understand what is happening to them and how to identify early onset issues arising at the workplaces. And then we identify one or two and train them specifically. So everybody having made the efforts to understand yourselves and look at the intervention, then if it goes beyond your own personal intervention, then you can approach this person, a workplace personnel who has been given extra training to handle you at the office. Of course, confidentiality is a major component of that office. And when this has not happened, then the employer will send, in addition to the various steps that were given by ACOFA, will get you to the hospital. Now, this employee assistance program will take a little while to get to everywhere, but we are going to establish them on prototype basis and then eventually extend to everybody. But for now, what I'm saying is that if any employer gets to realize that this is what my staff is going through, he or she will need to invite him or her, discuss the issues, and see how he or she can supportively send it for further to the counselors or psychiatrists or any such facility. But I think eventually when you put up this mechanism, that will sort out all these subjectivities and people will be very clear as to what exactly they should do. Now, many people don't know what they should do. If you come to health facilities themselves, many heads of the departments and heads of the facilities even don't know what to do. So either they just simply transfer you or push you to some place, eventually you become more or less ineffective or useless. But you need to put in this mechanism. I know it's been a little overdue, but better late than never.
Thank you very much, Chief. I saw 3 questions. I think one from Ajwa, one from Ben about EAP, about a boss suffering from mental illness. I logged out of the program due to technical faults. So I've lost your questions. I'll be happy if you can repeat your questions because I would like to read your questions and have them answered. I think that the discussion so far has led to the point that we should ask what organizations and employers can do to create that organizational environment that will be supportive of mental health of persons who have issues. I would quickly say that research from other countries, most of them Western countries, have done research, and there are about 5 top strategies that are being used to create this environment whereby employers, employees, organizations have done to create that environment. One of them is instituting a mental health policy. That's whereby they create a team, which most often includes the health team, the welfare team, the operational team. They meet with mental health professionals, talk to the workers, and find what will be suitable for them in terms of resources. If workers are going on leave, what can be done for them? If they have mental issues, what can be done for them? This is one way. The other way is embarking on mental health promotion programs, instituting it as part of the program for the organization, whereby the whole workers are educated on mental health, give them a better understanding what mental health is, what they can do to support themselves. And it is part, that way they can contribute effectively when the policy is being made. Another way is providing mental health literacy training programs. Chief mentioned it, for their line managers and supervisors, because these are people who interact often with almost all the employees, including the bosses and their subordinates. And so they know everybody's problem. So increasing their knowledge on mental health, changing their attitude, that is what mental health literacy does, not just providing them with the knowledge, but includes changing their attitudes. So they need to change their attitude. That way they can be helpful to themselves, because when you present your case, that issue of confidentiality, privacy, being supportive, they are trained to acquire that so that they can easily detect and act fast when such situations happen. Other organizations also have now integrated mental health care into the already existing health care, so that now they've engaged psychologists, psychiatrists as part of their package, so that quietly workers who have issues can go and see them. And finally, just like Chief mentioned, there's the EAP, Employment Assisted Programs. That is also being practiced. And in Ghana here, like Chief said, we are on it. And indeed, let me mention that there's an organization which is becoming strong. It's known as EAP Africa. EAP Africa, you can Google it up and have a look. This EAP program has to do with the employer as well as the family. So anything that is related to the employer's performance, mental health, all that issues that will impact on productivity of the worker, it's all looked at. So it can be planned in-house, it can be outsourced and all that. This is what EAP does. So these are the most structured strategies that organizations outside are doing. Currently in Ghana here, there's very little research on what is being done, but I know that EAP Africa has entered into the market because they provide context-based help to the organizations, not as in other places. But I think that at this point, we are almost there yet. And so I would allow attendees to also ask questions. But before we go on with this question, let me read one that has come in. Oh, okay, Ben, your question has been answered already with regards to the reporting discrimination and stigmatization cases. If you go online to Stride's site, you would have, and I think that you can follow the prompts and get it done. You can report it, and an investigator will take the case up, and you can follow it up from there. The issue of disclosure and its impact, along the line, I would ask Ms. Nate and Mrs. Akofa to respond to that. But at this point, let's take some attendees' comments, questions, and let's see. I see that Adwa has raised your hand. So Adwa.
Yes,
Adwa, go ahead.
Please, good afternoon once again.
Good afternoon. Please go ahead.
Yes, please, you said you lost my question. That's why I raised my hand to.
That's fine. Ask your question.
Thank you. So my question is about, okay, throughout the presentations, I realized mostly mental illness and its issues were linked to just employees until not long ago, Prof came to say that employers should be sensitized. So when you have a boss who is suffering from a mental illness, and you are aware because maybe you've been attending webinars such as this, maybe nationally and internationally, and you've been listening to some other expert psychologists, and you view from afar that your boss is also suffering from a mental illness. How do you go about it? Seeing your boss's reactions to employers, creating a lot of stress or stresses, leading to some who came sane, but now, should I say, insane or having challenges, some even having illnesses, other illnesses. How do you go about this?
Okay, that's a good question. Well, let's assume that you are able to pick out all the signs to suggest to you that he or she, your boss, might be experiencing mental health issues. I would ask Prof to respond to that. Prof, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Actually, employee assistance program, if established, covers them all.
That's right.
So the employee here includes even the managers there. If the manager himself is let's say the owner of the company, he is still somehow a staff. So the employee assistance program allows you to go for support, or you to go and discuss anything about mental health, mental well-being, mental promotion with the office. And by virtue of their confidentiality, they will know how to discuss such that it will not cause any breach. There are some people, bosses, if you go and of course tell them that, boss, I think this is wrong with you, he could take offense. But if you have that system of you going to discuss this with the employee assistance program office, they will know how to take it up. Having said that, let me say that's a formal system. It also depends on your own relationship with the employer, I mean your manager in this case, and also how you go about it. You know, there is a statement that you can tell me that I'm stupid, but you can say it in such a way that I will not feel offended. I will see that you're advising me, or you can say it in such a way that whatever advice in it, I will miss it and only take the offense. So again, it depends on how you go about it. But I think all this means is that we should expedite our steps, quickly establish the EAP, because once that one is there, it will solve to a large extent. In fact, once it's there and it's implemented effectively, it will solve a lot of this. I know we were in discussion with one company, GRA, since 2 years, even before the COVID came. But during the COVID time, all that discussion has gone down. They are eager to establish it, but we need to take steps to ensure we establish this and to educate both managers, employees, anybody within the company organization.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. ABAC Foundation. ABAC Foundation, you have the floor.
Hello, good morning. Good afternoon to, yes, good afternoon to all of you. Yes, I have followed the discussions, and it's a very good discussion we are all doing today. However, my issue has to do with the numerous needs of persons with mental health conditions, especially at the community levels and the district levels. Looking at the mental health authority and how their operations are at the moment, I'm wondering, are there any kind of specific interventions or opportunities at the local levels which community workers can take advantage of in support of persons with mental health conditions, especially at the local levels, because most of these conditions are which affect persons with mental health conditions, and therefore we need to look at how we can support persons with mental health challenges at the local levels. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Abad Foundation. Chief, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, please. Again, I think we are talking, or we are touching on an area where things are a little slow in terms of rolling out the programs and plans and policy of the mental health authority. We have the regional level. At the regional level, we have the regional mental health coordinators and regional mental health committees. And they take charge of all these issues and move in as and when necessary to discuss with the appropriate agencies within the region. So if anybody has anything in a region and gets in touch with the regional coordinators there, definitely that can be resolved. But your point is that at the regional level, what about at the district level? What about at the sub-district level? That is where we have been slow in implementing the district committee, district level committees and district level coordinators. That has been, we are taking steps to do that. We've been slow in these matters because of finances, I must say. But I think with or with no finances, at least we should be able to take up some of them as basis. Then we can learn experiences and then roll it out to other areas. So that one, for now, I agree with you. You don't have district level mental health management for now. We have some people in acting position, but we've really not gone far enough. I think we need to go further. Once that one is done, and that will be done, not it can, it will be done by the end of the year, not for all districts, but at least for some selected districts. Thank you.
Thank you. And Abak, to add to that, we have community mental health nurses available in most of the district facilities, and there are units also being created. So if you come across an issue, you can check at the nearest district facility and cross-check if there is a unit there, which most likely there is, and there's a nurse there. And let's see what they can do to support in that case. Thank you very much, Abak, for your question. Asante Stephen. Asante Stephen. It's not there. Okay.
Good afternoon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. Go ahead.
Such a wonderful seminar. I've really learned a lot. I want to find out, I think this issue is very important to our development as a nation. And looking at the subject we are discussing at the moment, most of these things are happening in government institutions. I want to find out, because this institution needs to set the pace for others to follow. What's the authority doing about it? Because I'm a psychiatric nurse and I've encountered a lot of nurses who are into addiction, and at the end of the day, their salary has been blocked and nothing is being done to such people. So what's the authority doing about this issue? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stephen, for your question. Chief is still around. I would ask him to respond.
Yes, this very point, especially arising from, as I said earlier, if you're with us earlier on, and much earlier than now, you would have heard us giving the instance of a nurse who was driven to take her life just because her addiction issue was not properly managed. And so we have a guideline which we are fine-tuning to scale it up into a policy guideline on how to manage persons with mental health, mental and behavioral problems, including addiction issues. So once that one guideline is done, we will get on board Ghana Health Service and the other agencies, in fact, together with the Ministry of Health. And that was clearly spelled out how to handle these issues. Until that one is done, I'm sure it won't keep low, but until it's done, once we hear of any such particular case, we move in and deal with it on individual basis. But we need to get a systemic policy in place. And thank God we have that indeed. But for this program, you would have had a meeting on it right this week. But it will be done, I'm sure, by the end of the year. that policy will also be in place. Maybe the year is probably too long. Maybe in about a month, you will have a working document. Then we can invite stakeholders, other stakeholders, for us to consult on it. And by the following month, you will have a policy in place for all this.
Thank you very much, Chief. I see Patience. Patience, you have the floor. Hello, Patience. Patience is not there. Ebenezer.
Hello, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Great, great. I've learned a lot. Thank you so much. Thank you, all of you, the facilitators. It's been an incredible wealth of information. It was amazing hearing the human rights aspect from a Ghanaian perspective. Dorcas, amazing your experience that you've shared. And again, I wanted to ask a list of questions, but I think Dr. Akwesi has answered that in terms of, you know, what is in place. I was going to ask what infrastructures are in place to provide support in workplaces. So hearing about EAP in the pipeline is just amazing, because having worked years in Western countries, EAP is a staple resource of, you know, human resource department and the health and safety department. Every organization is compulsory that you have an EAP. So to hear that, you know, that is in progress and it's going to be fast tracked. I'm so happy to hear about that. Because EAP is a very good strategic tool in terms of promoting and enhancing the psychosocial well-being, not only of the employee, but also the employers as a corporate client to enhance performance and productivity. So it's really, really amazing. And I've really enjoyed the session. Thank you so much. Thank you, all of you. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. Mrs. Nati, are you there? There's a question here. I think that it's for you. It says, it's coming from Distress Consult. The question is, will it be considered discriminatory if a person is turned down, specifically employment into security service agency, where their laws state that employees should be of sound mind? Mrs. Nati, are you there? Did you hear me? Mrs. Akofa, are you there? Hello?
Hello. I think I'm unmuted now.
Okay. Please, did you hear the question?
No, can they come again?
Okay. The question is, will it be considered discriminatory if a person is turned down, specifically employment into security service agency, where their laws state that employees should be of sound mind? Will it be considered discriminatory?
Thank you very much for the question. But when we look at issues of discrimination, there's what we call the negative aspect and sometimes the positive aspects of discrimination. Some laws may be made to positively discriminate against a person just because it's to protect the person and the kind of job that the person is to be engaged in, of which the person's life may be endangered. And so if in the case of the security services, the nature of the job is, as we all know, is something that the person may handle firearm or other gadgets, and then the life of that person may be endangered, then we will say that this is not discrimination. It is a positive discrimination. When we talk about positive discrimination, we are looking at policies made to ensure that areas of inadequacies or areas where persons' life may be endangered, they are prevented for one reason or the other. So you realize that in Ghana, for instance, we made a positive discrimination towards our brothers and sisters at the north where for some time back, education was made free for them so that because it is to address a systemic challenge, a systemic problem. So I will come to the firm conclusion that in the security services, except we know the work that the person is going to be engaged in, let's say if the person is to work in an office and will not go to the field to handle firearms and all, and so depending on the nature of the work that the person is to be engaged in, then we will say that it may or may not be discrimination. If the person is to go to the field and handle firearms and all, like I said, then that person's life will be in danger. But if the person is to work in an office and is to work in a place where that person's life may not be endangered, then I will consider that to be discrimination. Yes.
Right. Thank you very much. This is nothing. All right, Ebenezer, your turn.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello, Ebenezer.
Hello, Ebenezer speaking. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, this is Ebenezer. I was quite late, so I didn't get enough of it. So I wanted to find out whether, we can get the recorded version, again to play back. And secondly, I wanted to know whether there can be a change of the name mental health, because the perception, the way people perceive things when they come to you and they are being referred that go to the mental health, it means automatically their mind is not working well. So I did to the FEVES unit that if you are being referred to the FEVES unit, your mind wouldn't go to that you are being referred to HIV unit. So that was what I wanted to bring on board.
Well, thank you very much for your comments, Ebenezer. Thank you very much for your comments.
You're welcome.
Is that Pedersen? Pedersen, you have the floor. Pedersen. I think Pedersen is not on. Okay. Abak, those who have asked questions already, unless you have additional questions to ask, can you please lower your hand so that I'm sure of who to call? Talk to Tiana. Talk to Tiana. Are you there?
Hi, good afternoon. Yes, please, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a foundation, which is a mental health foundation based in Ghana, raising awareness in rural areas. But I would like to know if, with this whole trying to reduce stigma and discrimination in workplaces, authority have a plan for management skills and leadership skills for CEOs to take on board the EAP. Because the issues that I've had when I've tried to come across trying to introduce EAP to companies is that Ghana is not ready for this discussion. There is no resources. So I really just would like to know what the plan would be with implementing the EAP in companies, please, in the institutions. Thank you.
I guess, thank you very much, Tatiana, but you missed when Prof was talking. That is being worked on at the moment seriously, and so it's not out of place to ask about it now. Okay. It's being worked on with other organizations to have it all over the place, but like you know, some of these things take a bit of time. Prof, are you there?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, I'm there. I'm there, and I think you just responded. Okay. That a country does not become ready until it gets started by institutions that need to start it, and the discussions have already started. It's been ongoing. Already said these things take some time. and it's been worked on. It will surely come. So.
All right, thank you.
Let me also take advantage to answer. Can you change the name mental?
Yes.
Are you hearing me?
Hello, please go ahead.
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Yeah, so a question just came that can you change the name mental? It's a good idea. It's been considered several times. Indeed, one of the things that are being looked at is, well, 3 new hospitals are going to be built. 2 new psychiatric hospitals. We definitely will not call them psychiatric hospitals. You will find appropriate non-stigmatizing names to add to give them, and then eventually even the existing ones. So that one is already being considered. However, let me also say that no matter any name you give, eventually it will catch up with people and people will recognize that it is set for that purpose. So whilst in the short term, we might change some names, medium to long term, public education for people to realize that this facility may have the mental in it. It still does not mean that people who go there are, so to speak, in better comments, smart. And that education and that understanding is very, very important. So you will take the two alongside. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. Mr. Oyinte, you have the floor. Hello, Mr. Oyinte. He's not there. Florence. Hello, Florence. Okay, Florence.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Florence.
And thanks to the organizers of this webinar. Briefly, I want to know from the legal point of view, in the case of the nurse who committed suicide, I want to know if the family, for instance, the father who confided in the director, paid and made the director aware that the daughter has a mental issue and the confidentiality was broken, leading to the suicide. If it comes out true that what we have all read on social media is the fact, can the family take the director on? I want to know from the legal point of view. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. And before Mrs. Nate responds to that, people do not commit suicide. When we use the word commit suicide, it presupposes that they've committed a crime. And we are trying to decriminalize suicide in this country. So we'd rather say the person died by suicide than using the word committed, connotes some sort of criminality. Okay, so that's by the way. Mrs. Nate, are you there to respond to that?
Thank you, I'm here.
Good.
Well, like we have said, issues of stigmatization, issues of discrimination, they are things that the human rights law frowns upon, and therefore they are infractions against people and they need not be. However, looking at the scenario situation before us, the name of the game when it comes to investigation of such cases is evidence. Can you produce evidence to show that indeed it was as a result of this particular disclosure or leakage of information that brought about the sudden situation of our sister? If indeed the family, hello?
Yes, please go ahead. Mr.
Yes.
Oyinta, please.
All right, so the family has every right to sue on behalf of the deceased, provided they can give ample proof to show that indeed it was as a result of the action of the boss that caused that particular issue. Yes.
And to ask as a follow-up question, is there a role that SHRAJ would play in this?
SHRAJ is only triggered by complaints. when it comes to human rights, that which doesn't come back complaints, we do by systemic investigation just to address an issue. But when it comes to human rights, a complaint may be triggered. However, when it comes to criminal matters, our acts, we are prohibited in investigating issues that relate to criminality. And there's an aspect of human rights which comes under criminal law. And therefore, once it moves into criminality, then we are precluded from investigating. However, the person, like we said, can always seek legal advice as to the way forward. But in the scenario before us, there's someone is dead, the issue is now criminal, and therefore the family will have to take it from that angle. Charge is now precluded from investigating that matter. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, Mrs. Martin. All right, Nesta, let's hear you. I think that Nesta will be our final attendee to ask the question. Nesta, can you hear me?
Hello, our moderator.
Yes.
Before Lester comes in, I have a little issue that mostly we come across in the course of our work, where we have talked about education for employers, but I also think we need some form of education for our medical staff, the doctors, because I know not all doctors are vested with the knowledge in this area. And therefore it's important because sometimes patients are sent to hospitals and doctors would come to the conclusion that because of their medical condition or their mental health condition, they are no longer fit to work. They are no longer fit to work, based on which employers prematurely retire those employees. And because they are prematurely retired, when they go for their SNP contribution, it becomes a big issue, because now the SNP board will have to now also evaluate the situation and come up with a conclusion as to whether or not the person is unfit to do any other kind of job until the person is 60 to qualify for pension. And this issue is a bit problematic, because here is a situation where a medical officer has declared the person unfit to work. However, another medical team thinks that the person is fit to work. And all these boils down on rights of the person. And we have talked about some of these rights. So I also will plead with Professor Asari that the education should also go beyond the employers and also to some of the medical folks to also help to assist our colleagues or our friends who may have some mental disorder or condition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well taken. Prof, would you like to respond to your final suggestions before I go to the final person?
Yes. You are right. I think medical fraternity, people require a lot of education. And we've cited the example of this case in hand. Are you hearing me? So if the
yes,
doctor
you are not hearing you. If you can restart, please.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that I agree that we are required to give education to the doctors and to all health staff and to others. Because as we've just given an example, this lady, an issue, if the doctor there had adequate understanding of human rights issues, and in fact, even of addiction being a medical condition, a disease, I'm sure his approach would have been different. So I agree with you that we require. However, with respect to doctors issuing a certificate that this person is not fit to work, and SNP also issuing a certificate that this person is fit to work, I think there's a genuine lacune, a genuine gap that we need to meet and thrash it out. If a doctor gives a report that you are not fit to work, actually what the doctor is saying is that you are not fit to do the very job you are doing. Like we're a driver, okay. The driver, okay. And the doctor gives a report that you are not fit to work, meaning that you are not fit to drive.
They're not fit to
But
drive.
Smith will also, Smith will also say that not just driving. If I cannot drive in that same company, can't I be perhaps a messenger? Can't I be perhaps anything? Because they are also looking at, and that is what Shraj will also say, that they are looking at how, if you cannot do the job assigned to you, can you be given a less demanding job, which will be able to accommodate your situation? That needs to be done, that needs to be looked at. But the doctor in the consulting room who was asked to review this person coming from this organization is only looking at whether he's fit to do that job. And that is where we need to bridge that gap, because there's obviously a gap. SNCC is not looking at that very job you're doing, but whether you can do any other job. Once you can do any other job, they say you are not yet, you can't access your pension. And that, so I think with time, as we move on, the authority has actually the right, the leverage to bring on board or to approach any institution that we think we need to discuss and establish some MOU to get some understanding. So this is one thing that can be done.
So in other words, employers should understand that if the person cannot perform that current job, another lesser job of lesser responsibility should be found for that person, other than getting rid of that person outright.
Exactly. And I also agree that doctors should also be educated to understand that if you issue a report, state it clearly that it is this job that your report covers and not any other job. I get my point. So if you don't state it clearly, then SNCC will also be entitled to say that, oh, but you are saying he's not fit to work. But he can, as I said, a driver, he can be a messenger, he can be a laborer. So why do you say he's not fit to work? So the doctors in their report should say it clearly that they are examining and reporting on this very condition, which is been asked to do. We can take this one up with Ghana Medical Association so that we can take that up later.
All right, thank you very much, Chief. That's quite elaborate. Thank you very much. Nesta, let's hear what Nesta has to say. Nesta, are you there?
Yes, please. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for this opportunity. I've learned a lot, though I'm a mental health nurse, but I'm still learning. I want to say that with the stigma, in fact, we can't root out stigma with mental health. I was thinking by now that stigma should have reduced, but it's like, I don't know how we are going to do that. We are talking of promoting mental health everywhere we go, but you realize that the stigma, especially among health workers, is a major problem. Stigma, when you take other fields of health, even their stigma, who are supposed to know better, their stigma against even mental health workers and mental health clients is a big problem. So I want to find out, how are we going to change that narrative? Because if every aspect of health come to accept that we all need to have mental health, good mental health, I think we are going to help. So how is the mental health authority going to work on that? I'm talking, let me give some example. In the outbreak of the COVID, we heard of a mental health client around Reach who was refused treatment because of mental health. So I don't know if there's something that is being done, especially to help us in that field. My brother Eben just talked about changing the name from mental health. It's all because of the stigma. Some mental health nurses, maybe, or mental health staffs, if you should do a research, are not even proud to be mental health workers because of the treatment, because of the stigma and all that they go through. That's why he's even suggesting that if there could be a change of name. So I want to find out, how are we going to do that? And my other issue is that I don't know if it's the same stigma that is preventing us from going to certain fields. Example, I know that mental health nurses are allowed to do other specialization like critical care, anesthesia and other stuff, but they are not allowed to do ENT. I don't know if it's because of the stigma or something else. If mental health authority can work on that for us, we'll be really happy, because most of our clients have those cases. And when you take them to the general hospital, they will say that the person is mentally ill, so they are not being cared for. So how do we change that narrative and make mental health nurses even proud of what we are doing. Because when we've heard of stories how mental health is being well done in other countries, especially in the Western world. How do we change that narrative in our country? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nesta, for your question. With the issue of stigma, I would like Chief answer the second part of your question. The first part, the issue of stigma is a two-way thing. Health workers have stigma towards individuals with mental health issues as well as mental health professionals. Mental health professionals themselves have stigma towards their clients and even among themselves. So that stigma is there, it's existing, and it's deep-rooted. The only solution is by education. That is why this program is going on, so that when you get the knowledge, you'll be able to inform your colleague that, well, you don't need to wait for mental health authority to come and teach you this thing. You can learn something on your own, and by that way, hopefully you can change your attitude towards it. So it's a big issue, my dear, it's a big issue, but we all need, within our individual organizations, the promotion must go on. Even among mental health professionals, there's stigma towards their clients. There's stigma towards their clients. And until that promotion to that higher level, unfortunately, Chief said it, resource to mental health to do some of these things, the government is doing its best, but there's still more room for improvement. And until some of these things come in, resources in terms of enough professionals, buildings, hospitals, and all that, changing everything. It all in simple ways contributing to changing that narrative that we are talking about. History will tell you that the Western countries aren't where they are now. They started from where we are, but somewhere along the line, they got fast and invested a lot of resources into it. That is where they are now. That is why we also, as a country, need to invest a lot into it. And government, private individuals, foreigners, all of them would have to support and push that agenda. So my dear, stigma is there, but it's with promotion and awareness will definitely change the tide. Chief, if you can respond to the second part where you think that mental health professionals should have knowledge and should go and upgrade themselves with, for example, ENT and all that.
Yeah, that second part has come up a number of times. Almost every time we discuss this, that our own colleagues up there in the other agencies are not giving us the opportunity to for personal training and development. That is being discussed. I'm sure that one day we'll get there. But a bigger picture of the stigma, in fact, that is part of the stigma against mental health workers, because the authorities think that, well, my priority is not in mental health, it's in some other area. So why do I spend resources? In fact, they would even say waste resources on you. It's still part of the stigma issue. So as we tackle stigma holistically, that'll be done. But on stigma, let me say that we all know there are 3 types of stigma. I don't intend elaborating, but 2 crucial is self-stigma. What everybody stigmatizes against you is the public stigma. So they point fingers at you, oh, you have this condition, you are working here, blah, blah, blah. So public stigma. But what we also accept that, oh yes, I'm here and they are stigmatizing me and therefore I can't do this. That is self-stigma. We need to build our resilience to withstand that. If you can build our resilience to withstand that, they can say anything, you will not mind too much. And that is what I would plead with my own colleagues, that do not be worried about people stigmatizing you, because you know that is what they've been doing. But as we press, you'll get there. Again, yes, public education is a lot, but it's not the only thing. If you educate me everything to stop stigma, and yet I go to the hospital, I don't get the treatment when I could have had it elsewhere, it will be difficult for you to continue, for me to accept that education would do. So it's holistic. We are educating, we are putting resources, we are also building our own resilience, all this together, and you'll get it. In any case, I don't know how old or young, is it the last questioner is, but if you've been in the system for some time, we have moved a lot. There's a lot of, we have had a lot of changes, but we still have a long way to go. And we are not reneging, we are not relaxing. What I mean is that, for instance, some 10 years ago, even this program, you having attended, you would have been stigmatized. Why? Did you listen to blah, 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 that kind of thing. Now, people will say, oh, how was the program? Oh, well done. A lot has changed, but we need to do a lot more. And that gives us the encouragement that if we forge ahead and do a lot more education and do all that we are doing, you'll get it one day. So don't get worried.
We will definitely get there. We will definitely get there. All right, Mr. Oyinte, I gave you the chance and he vanished. Are you back? Mr. Oyinte, he's not there again. Okay. Hello, Mr. Oyinte.
I think we can move on.
Yes, Mr. Boabeng. Hello, Mr. Boabeng.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity, Dr. Atta, and happy birthday to you too. To you. Yes, my question goes to Prof. I want him to elaborate more on the point he made around the fit for duty or fit for work and all of that. There's a scenario where a health worker is unable to discharge their duty. I mean, it's unable to meet that target and that the level of work output that the person is supposed to put out. And I mean, everything has been done, taken here and there to have, I mean, different places of work, but still, it's like there is some psychological issue. But these are management who perhaps may not see the need to seek professional intervention, where maybe you see a psychiatrist or a psychologist or someone who can give a real diagnosis and indeed say this is the problem, this is what we should do and recommend, but they in their own wisdom think the person should do something else apart from the health related work. Though it's also health related, but it's a little bit lower. So wouldn't that further entrench the mindset or the unwillingness to appreciate mental health at the workplace and really use professionals to solve these problems? So I want Dr. to Prof to kind of elaborate on that.
Yeah, thank you. Professionals, you won't have enough to go and fill every organization. But there are some basic things that we can teach ourselves. In the WHO pyramid of care, self-care can take about 75% of the conditions. So if you can educate, that's why we're embarking on a lot of public education, so people get to know. So the EAP, Employee Assistance Program, aims at educating everybody there, employer, employee, staff, everybody. So at least you have some basic knowledge and basic skills of how to handle yourself. Failing that, then a dedicated officer and a dedicated office will handle those issues that your self-care could not help. And that's why that becomes very important, because getting this person will not be a professional. You'll be one of the staff members that has been given extra training, because you don't get enough personnel to go to every organization to man them. And so it becomes important that we get this as very clear. So if you're able to put it in place, everybody will have some knowledge. Beyond that, a special office in your organization will have that extra knowledge. If that also helps, then they liaise with the professionals. Then we can get care to everybody, as many people as possible.
Thank you very much, Prof. I think it's clear now on that question. Ms. Mate, I want you to give us your perspective about the issue of disclosure. I think that's a major issue that we need to look at here, the issue of disclosure. If I disclose what is going on with me, and after that disclosure, I realize that things are not as they used to be. What is your general take on disclosure as an issue? Do I need to or I should not? If I do it, what should I expect? If my expectations are not met, what can I do? What is your view on that?
Respectfully, are you talking in terms of the person with the disability, or are you talking in the area of the employer?
I'm talking with the person of the disability. Well,
Okay.
yes.
Well, like we have all said, the fact that you have a mental issue or a mental condition doesn't mean that you are not fit for purpose or you are not fit for job. No. And therefore, if in fact, in the course of an interview, your employer was unable to determine that you have a mental situation or a mental condition, then that tells me that it is not in the serious category. And if it's not in the serious category, because perhaps subsequently you may have to seek help in terms of the nature of job where you'll be placed and the fact that you also have to attend hospital and all that, it will be more appropriate in as per the law. As per, I'm taking it from Article 12 again. That says that we must all respect the right of all persons and also issue of confidentiality. Because disclosure here, let's look at, is this an issue of secrecy or is an issue that you want your mental situation to be held in confidence, to be confidential? Because when we are looking at secrecy, then it's as if you don't want anyone to actually know that this is the situation. Even to yourself, you are denying the fact that this is the situation. So there's a thin line between secrecy and confidentiality, because if your employer would have to know in order to assist you, why not? You need to disclose to avoid being treated in a manner that may not augur well for your health. And therefore, being disclosing it means that the employer now has a responsibility to manage the information that you have given onto him or her, and not to share to others, to control the information to your expectation. That is what confidentiality is all about. And so disclosure, you are not disclosing because you are not sure whether it will be kept confidential. But I don't think you are not disclosing because you want to keep it a secret. Because this is a situation we are all saying that you need help. You need others as allies to help you to get treatment and all. And so why would you keep it a secret? And if you keep it a secret, what will be the benefits? There are rather dark consequences. And in order not to be cited for bad faith, because it's important that you disclose to your employer that this is the situation. Of course, if you are not compelled and there is no need to disclose, I don't see why you should. If you are able to manage the situation in a way, you are taking your drugs, everything is going on well with you, nothing is showing, then you shouldn't be burdened at all to disclose. But like I'm saying, if you know your situation and you think that, oh, I will need subsequent help after having employed or subsequent help during the employment situation, then you need to disclose, because otherwise it will amount to a breach of mistrust. You know your situation. You know you are unable or you are unfit to do this job, and you are unwilling to disclose. That is bad faith. Because I think our sister mentioned the voluntary type, the involuntary, and the one that comes under certificate of emergency. If you are the involuntary type, it means you know the situation. And if you know it, then it's better to disclose it so you get help. Of course, now the obligation is not on you to keep it confidential. The obligation is on the employer or whoever you disclose the matter to manage that information and to make sure that it doesn't come out in a manner that you may be discriminated against or you may be stigmatized.
Well, thank you very much. I think that's clear enough on what to do with the issue of disclosure. We have exceeded our time, And at this point, I can say that it's been a very fruitful discussion, quite educative, very educative, not quite, very educative, because I have learned quite a few. Right from the start, Prof has made us aware that there are work-induced factors that serves as risk factors to experiencing mental health issues, which includes the working conditions, the stress, burnout, and all that. They contribute to mental health issues. And indeed, human rights experts have also made them understand that everybody is entitled to the right. Everybody enjoys the right to work, the right to confidentiality, the right to privacy, and all that. So nobody can discriminate against. You are not supposed to be stigmatized, neither should you be discriminated against. And for that matter, they have currently set up a stigma and discrimination system that we can report cases to them. And we can go online and lodge our complaints. And when we submit it, an investigator would come in to investigate the matter and try to address the situation at hand. On the part of Mental Health Authority, guidelines is also being prepared to look at mental health and behavioral problems in organizations. And that will serve as all organizations as a guidelines to look at, in addition to the EAP, which is also being prepared. It's slow, but it will definitely come in. We just heard about the issue of disclosure. And so we need to be circumspect in what to disclose and what not to disclose at what time, looking at the positive sides and the negative sides and all that. If you are well and it will not impact on your work, like she said, why do you have to disclose? Unless that you think that you need help, then it is important that you have to disclose. Dorcas shared her experience. Luckily for us, her experience has been good enough. She's been in places that were very supportive of her condition, which we are very happy about that, and we commend the management and employers, as well as employees of those organizations, for doing their best for her. Not too soon, because our time is already elapsed. I would ask Chief to give us closing remarks, and I can round it up finally. Chief, are you there? Prof?
Yes, I'm there. Well, you've summarized everything. So, and given that you've had enough, you've taken a lot of time, I don't think I'll keep you long. I'll just say that thank you, every single one of you. Unfortunately, there was somebody in the waiting room who we couldn't get him on board, but Dorcas left and she came back.
Yes.
Okay. So we want to thank you very, very much. Just as you've all said, it's been exciting, it's been interesting. We've all shared and learned. I'm sure we are going home more informed than we used to be. But as we said, this is triggering various issues. Those that we have started, which were not progressing fast enough, is going to be a trigger for us to expedite action on that. Those that we had not started, it's a reminder that we need to begin to work on them, and all this will be done. But let's also be patient with ourselves, that things will take a little while. We've already taken some time to be here, so we could afford to wait a little longer in patience, not that we are sleeping, but as we put things in place. Surely it will be nice, to be wonderful, and next time when we meet, I'm sure it will be another exciting day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So on behalf of Mental Health Authority, on behalf of my own self, I would like to express a very big thank you to our panel members for being part of this, including yourself, Chief, for being part of this. And to our participants, without you, we wouldn't be here. We believe that we've all learned something and we are taking it home. With that knowledge that we have acquired today, don't keep it to yourself, share it with others. It's all part of the promotion that Nesta raised, that we are doing. We want that promotion to spread, that tentacles to spread. And gradually we can change the game of mental health in this country. Thank you very much for being part of this. The video will be available after this program on our Facebook page, so you can get to our Facebook page and have a look. This virtual seminar has been institutionalized. So God willing, if we have good health and we have life, next month we will meet again. Until then, share the news, share the knowledge, and enjoy your weekend. Thank you very much. Bye for now.
Thank you and bye to you.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.